Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Week 8, we got your post-game notes here. We're going to hang out for a half an hour or so, and I'm just going to cover the games that underwent Week 8. Not a great Week 8. Not a lot of good games. Packers had a fun game last night, but we're going to start with the Thursday night game. And hey, if you guys are new to the Fellowship, you guys can download these post-game notes at thefantasyfellowship.com. Just become a member there to get the download access. A lot of free stuff on thefantasyfellowship.com, but check it out to get some of the membership perks. But let's talk about these Minnesota Vikings, man. This was embarrassing. They should probably get in trouble for keeping Carson Wentz in the game. He is now, season's over for him. He's undergoing surgery. We're going to see J.J. McCarthy play next week. But, I mean, he wasn't healthy coming into this game. They let him continue to take hits and make some really bad plays. Not really quite sure what was going on here through Kevin O'Connell's head, letting Wentz out there. But nonetheless, Wentz is gone. Brosmer will be QB2. We'll see who they sign at QB3. This was the tough one for me. I was super confident that Jordan Mason would continue to be the lead back here. The game script did not allow this to happen. He was getting early usage, which I liked, but as the game went on and they kept getting behind the game, Aaron Jones had to play more on passing routes, which is kind of the role that we anticipated for him. But nothing really for fantasy here. Xavier Scott got the final cleanup duties at the end of the game. This is going to continue to be a backfield split. I think in a more competitive game situation, you're going to continue to see Jordan Mason lead the team in carries. 4 carries in this game to Aaron Jones' 5. They just couldn't run the ball. They could not do anything on offense. Pretty frustrating day. Jones is the pass-catching back, though. I think Jones will be ranked as like a low-end RB2 for me going forward. Mason's kind of a, fringe RB2 flex, something like that. But pretty muddy game against the Chargers here. Justin Jefferson, you're happy with 14.4 floor game here. Jordan Addison, same thing, 11.6. You take that floor game. Jalen Nailor is the clear wide receiver 3. Hawkinson, still getting all the usage here. Just it was not a volume day for him. So I'm kind of ready to just forget about this game from the Vikings. Let's see what J.J. McCarthy looks like next week. I think if you're playing Vikings, they're going to be at Detroit. You can play Jefferson. You can play Addison. You can think about Hawkinson and his return to Detroit. And then Jones and Mason, I'm sure I'll get the most questions on. But let's talk about these Chargers, man. This was a pretty wild game for Justin Herbert. He looked flawless. Running the ball, he was fantastic. He threw 3 touchdowns in this one, 25 fantasy points. His receivers, Ladd McConkey, led the way with 10 targets, 6 catches. He did get the touchdown to get things started here, 20.8 fantasy points. Trey Harris, they were doing a lot of Trey Harris in one wide receiver sets, which I thought was interesting. He only ran 10 routes, but he was out there for 42 snaps. So if we do see, McConkey, QJ, or Keenan Allen miss time, I do think Trey Harris is the clear next man up, and they like him in those one wide receiver sets. Like I said, he ran only 10 routes and played 42 snaps. So he was out there a ton, and he got the goal line touchdown in this one. So I like that for his stock in the future. Quentin Johnston, though, we're going to run 27 routes and get 0 targets. Now, the Chargers offensive line was giving up a lot of pressures, and Herbert had to move the ball and run and kind of hit his early throws. And a lot of times downfield, I was watching QJ, and he was getting open. They just weren't able to get him the downfield target. So that's a bit worrisome here. He becomes more of a questionable wide receiver 3 flex. Keenan Allen, they just didn't need him. 4 catches, 8.4 points. It's a floor game for him. We'll see how he does against Tennessee next weekend. And then the tight end, man, Oronde Gadsden. He might be a top. Like when I do my rest of season rankings tomorrow, I'm going to probably have Oronde Gadsden like 7th, 8th, 9th for tight ends. This looks fantastic. 5 for 5, 18.7 fantasy points. And then the real big one here, besides Gadsden, was Kimani Vidal, just looking really good. It took him a while to get going, but they really opened it up in the second half with the run, almost 20 fantasy points. Still not really getting a ton of targets, but he's running the routes. He's getting the rushing attempts that you want to see here. A fun game against Tennessee next weekend. You're starting Vidal. So good Chargers game. We'll get more competitive games from them in the future. Miami upsets the Atlanta Falcons. This was a fun game for Miami. Tua Tagovailoa looked really good, throwing, I think, 4 touchdowns, 24.2 fantasy points here. Devon Achane gets 18 rushing attempts, 5 receptions. He gets a receiving touchdown. It's just another ho-hum 20 fantasy point day. Interesting note here for Ollie Gordon, who played 21 snaps, but he gets 10 rushing attempts, which is a really nice hopefully trend that we're going to continue to see develop. Jalen Wright closed this game out with 9 rushing attempts, so maybe there would have been more room for Gordon in a more competitive game. Both Gordon and Wright caught a pass. I think Gordon's one of those guys I want to stash on my bench for the second half of the season. Jalen Waddle finally came through, 5 catches, 20.9 fantasy points. I think in the 4 games without Tyreek, he's had 1 dud. So it's looking like you kind of just got to live with Waddle and the ups and downs from Miami's passing offense. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is going to run a lot of routes and get a lot of snaps, not a lot of volume. Malik Washington, though, did earn 5 targets, 4 catches. He scores a touchdown in this one. If you need a desperation wide receiver 3 flex in a full PPR league, Malik is kind of the clear number 2 target with Waller gone. I don't really care about the tight ends here. So what did we learn from Miami? They're still fighting. I think that's the most important thing. Still keep starting Achane, Jalen Waddle, pick up Ollie Gordon. You can think about Malik Washington. And Tua is still a roller coaster for Superflex leagues. But what do we do with our Falcons? Oh, my goodness. Kirk Cousins came in here. No Drake London, so that puts one hand behind his back. He already can't move and run in the pocket. And he struggled in this one. 7 fantasy points here. They could not run the ball. Chicago or Atlanta going up against Miami. Miami really stopped Bijan Robinson. 9 rushing attempts, only 3 catches for Bijan. Probably his worst fantasy day of the year. Algier gets the touchdown at the end of the game, whatever. But I just forget about this one. Michael Penix is scheduled to come back next week. They got to travel to New England. Tough matchup, but Bijan will have better days. No receiver was really worth a dang. Darnell Mooney led the team with snaps and 30 routes here, but he only caught 1 pass for 11 yards. David Sills stepped in for Drake London and ran a lot of stuff, but just didn't get a lot of volume. Kanaro Hodge actually was the hot target for the receivers. 8 targets, only 3 catches, whatever. It was Kyle Pitts. He was really the only one that if you started a Falcon yesterday, Kyle Pitts was the only one you were content with. Caught all 9 of his targets, 14.9 points, just the dink and dunk nature here. I'm expecting Atlanta to get Michael Penix back next week. We'll hopefully get Drake London back, and hopefully this is just kind of a blip on the radar, and you can continue to start your Falcons as we had been doing. Chicago gave Baltimore a run here. What did we learn? Rome Odunze's back. He's had only 2 bad games out of 7 this year. I think you're just going to leave Rome Odunze in your starting lineup at all times as a wide receiver 2. That's fine. 7 catches, 18.5 fantasy points on the day. DJ Moore, finally a decent startable game, 11.7 points. We did see Luther Burden leave with a concussion, and that allowed Olamide Zaccheaus to rack up 7 catches on 7 targets. I don't really think we care for Zaccheaus in fantasy, but if you need somebody in a desperation spot, he does operate as the number 3 receiver. No Cole Kmet yesterday, so we saw Colston Loveland get 32 routes, 51 snaps. I would love to see him just get this every week, even with a healthy Kmet, but that could muddy things up when he does come back. Only 4 targets, though, 3 catches, 6.8 fantasy points. I don't know if it's going to happen for Loveland, at least for the foreseeable future. We need some more things to go his way. He's kind of the 4th target in this offense with those healthy receivers. And then the running back field, we thought we'd get more Monangai. He still got 7 carries, just no catches, no goal line work really in this one. DeAndre Swift continues to look good. Swift is a good start, I think, right now. He's like borderline running back 1. And then Caleb, not his best game. Really, that Cowboys game is a distant memory when he balled out against Dallas. He has not been as good since that game. So what did we learn from Chicago? They're going to be competitive. Keep starting Swift and Odunze. Consider DJ Moore as a flex. Not going to use the tight end, and Caleb's more of a desperation super flex. He's a super flex QB2. The Ravens look pretty good with Tyler Huntley. He didn't have to do too much. They had 21 targets on the day, and he completed 17 passes, which was nice to see. Zay Flowers caught 7 of the 9 targets thrown his way, 14 fantasy points on the day for him, so he's going to continue to be fine. Lamar Jackson expected back this week. So you're going to be happy with Zay Flowers. Bateman, Hopkins, Tylan Wallace. These guys, it's just not happening for these guys. Maybe when Lamar comes back, we could be interested in Bateman again, who's the clear number 2 receiver in this offense, but it's just not super peachy for Rashad Bateman's fantasy outlook. Mark Andrews led the team in snaps, but he split routes with Isaiah Likely. Likely actually ran 1 more route. So if Mark Andrews is only running 15 out of 26 routes, that's roughly 60% routes. That's not exactly a must-start tight end anymore. Charlie Kohler actually catches the touchdown to make matters worse. So I'm not super into the Ravens tight ends. I think we're going to need an injury to either Andrews or Likely to be like, I got to start a Ravens tight end. So we'll watch that develop. Derrick Henry, 21 rushing attempts, gets some touchdowns, 19 fantasy points on the day. That was kind of it. Tyler Huntley made some moves with his legs and got the touchdown to Kohler in this one. Ravens can't really learn too much here. We need Lamar Jackson back. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen only needed to complete 14 passes yesterday. Pretty wild. And he still got the 2 rushing touchdowns. You're fine with Josh Allen. Big game against the Chiefs next week for the Bills. It was James Cook day when you're getting big chunk plays and big touchdown plays that you don't really need to do much else on offense. And Cook with 19 carries, no targets again, 34 fantasy points for James Cook. Just this is not happening for the backup running backs, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis. I don't even know if I want to hold on to one of these guys. Ray Davis had 9 rushing attempts and only 1.6 fantasy points. Is that right? Keon Coleman, still not really a trustworthy start. Khalil Shakir is the one guy that I'm starting, not named James Cook or Josh Allen on this team. Elijah Moore did operate as the number 3 receiver with Josh Palmer out. I'm not sure if it means anything. And then the tight end room is pretty frustrating. Now, I know this was a blowout, so the snaps and the routes and things are not going to be that predictive. But Dalton Kincaid, 14 snaps, 12 routes. I know he was coming back from injury, but only 1 catch on the day here, 23 yards, pretty frustrating. They do like Jackson Hawes quite a bit to play a lot of snaps, and he did earn 3 targets on the day. So didn't really learn much from Buffalo. We'll find out a lot about Buffalo next week against Kansas City. I think it's in Buffalo. Carolina, Andy Dalton, man, nice knowing you. I think they're going to try and get Bryce Young back for week 9 against Green Bay. And then the running backs split, 35 snaps for Chuba, 22 for Rico, 18 routes for Chuba, 12 for Rico, 13 touches for Chuba, 8 for Rico. And the media is now saying that it looks like Rico might retake his claim on the depth chart. He's just better. He's been kind of better at everything than Chuba in the last few weeks here. And Chuba's still coming back from that injury, but he should be up to speed by now. So if you have Rico and Chuba, I think I'm going to value Rico as a low-end RB2, Chuba more of the RB3 type, kind of like how I would maybe look at like Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. Like these guys are both startable. Don't really know what you're going to get every week, but they're both startable. And I just want to see Rico get the lion's share of the work. Good game from Ted McMillan, 10 targets, 7 catches. He got 17 fantasy points. Bad game from Leggett, who played all the snaps and routes, but only earned 3 targets from Dalton. Jalen Coker locked into the number 3 role here, 4 targets, 3 catches, 6.6. Maybe that's something he can kind of keep building on as the season goes on. He's worth picking up. And then Jatavian Sanders retook the claim as the tight end 1 now that he's finally healthy and up to speed. 3 catches, 5 fantasy points. We need Bryce Young back, which is kind of cool to see because I remember last year we had Andy Dalton come in and kind of provide some life, and then it all fizzled again. And now I think it's pretty clear Bryce Young makes his team better. So didn't really learn much from Carolina. We want to see more Rico. The New York Jets, no Garrett Wilson, no problem. No Josh Reynolds either in this one. This was a Breece Hall beast game. 18 carries, 2 receptions. He threw a touchdown, just 33 fantasy points. Enjoy it. Breece Hall finally hit the nut on one of the biggest fantasy days of his season. Justin Fields played well, 21 fantasy points. 11 rushes. They had a lot of snaps, and they didn't really, they kind of threw the ball more than we're used to seeing with Justin Fields. And it was just to a bunch of random dudes. Tyler Johnson, Arian Smith, Isaiah Williams, Jeremy Ruckert caught 1. The running backs, Isaiah Davis caught 5. And then Mason Taylor continues to look good. I think he's a really fun dynasty tight end, and we'll see if his chemistry can keep going with Justin Fields. Pick up Isaiah Davis, 7 rushing attempts, 5 targets. Like he is locked in to like, kind of like that old school Jaylen Warren workload that we've known behind Najee Harris the last few years in Pittsburgh. So I see Isaiah Davis. I'm starting to kind of just think Jaylen Warren as far as receiving back and some rushing upside there. I like him quite a bit. I'm not picking up any of these Jets receivers. Tyler Johnson had some big plays, but until Garrett Wilson comes back, I don't really want to deal with any of these receivers. So Mason Taylor, Breece Hall, Fields, Isaiah Davis, and hopefully we get Garrett Wilson back soon. But nice win from the Jets. It shows that they're still trying, and a pretty big opportunity for Justin Fields to get the monkey off the shoulder. Cincinnati, what are we doing, man? Joe Flacco looked awesome. Gets a rushing touchdown, tosses a few touchdowns, 25 fantasy points almost. Like, I don't want to quite say he's QB1 a QB1 right now, but he's definitely playing like a top 10, top 12 fantasy QB. Chase Brown, finally, 12 rushing attempts, 3 receptions. I think he got 2 touchdowns yesterday. I am concerned, though, about Samaje Perine's workload, who now has 9 carries in this one, catches a ball. He scored a big play as well. Kind of almost 50-50 here. It's more like 55-45 for this backfield split right now. So if Chase Brown, he needs to keep getting touchdowns right now for him to survive this fantasy trend that he's on. But we're seeing a little bit more Perine than I would like. Jamar Chase is fantastic. Another game, 19 targets, 12 receptions. T. Higgins, only 2 targets. There's 33 targets on the day. 19 of them go to Jamar Chase. We need more T. Higgins targets. Luckily, the one he did catch was for a 44-yard touchdown. And then Yoshivas, Tinsley, who cares? Drew Sample's going to continue to lead the team in snaps, but Noah Fant is the route runner. 3 for 41 yards. If he's a backup tight end if you need somebody here. But this offense is all Jamar Chase and Joe Flacco right now. I do like seeing the run game come to life a little bit. We'll continue to find out more about the Bengals, but it's pointing back up for this offense as a whole for fantasy. Oh, what a rough day for the 49ers. Not much happening here. Christian McCaffrey, only 8 rushing attempts, 3 catches on the day, under 10 fantasy points from PPR. This is probably one of his low moments of the year. Keep playing Christian McCaffrey. I don't have to tell you that. George Kittle catches a touchdown. Good to see him get some fantasy points after the goose egg last week. Jake Tonges caught the other touchdown from Mac Jones in this one. We need Ricky Pearsall back on this team. And I think we're going to get Brock Purdy back next week, so I'm not really going to take away too much from the 49ers in this one. It was a tough game going to Houston. Houston's a good defense. They pretty much stifled these guys. And Houston played kind of bully ball. They just dominated the clock, and they were able to sustain drives and keep this 49ers offense on the sideline. Juwan Jennings is the number 1 receiver right now. Saw a little bit of Kendrick Bourne action, but Jennings is the one receiver that I'd be starting in fantasy right now. We'll see about Ricky Pearsall this week. I don't know what to think about the 49ers right now. We need Brock Purdy back. We need Ricky Pearsall back. But continue starting your McCaffreys and your Kittles. Consider Jennings, and we'll see what happens with Purdy. Oh, my goodness. No Nico, no problem for Houston. CJ Stroud, 22 fantasy points. He's running the ball. Nick Chubb gets 17 rushing attempts in this one. Woody Marks gets 11. Woody Marks unleashed as a receiving weapon. He had a 50-yard catch in this one. 15 fantasy points for Woody Marks without a touchdown. It's pretty cool. So good to see. Like, this is very impressive for the Texans, who had a really bad showing the other night on Monday Night Football. They dominated here and just ran the ball, and they had CJ Stroud dealing. I mean, he was 30 of 31 or 37 passing, and everybody got involved in this one. Jaden Higgins, 4 catches, 13 fantasy points. Xavier Hutchinson was the big winner here with 18 fantasy points on 5 catches. Jared Wayne, don't even know who that is. He caught 2 passes. Jalen Noel, man, we got to get his snaps and his routes up as the slot receiver. 5 catches, 11 fantasy points. Braxton Berrios still getting some work there too with 5 catches. They kind of rotated Noel and Berrios as the slot receiver yesterday. And then Dalton Schultz, he's still getting all the usage that you want. Just it wasn't his day for targets. Everybody else was kind of feasting, and he was kind of the odd man out. But very impressive from CJ Stroud. No Nico, and he was able to get the job done with pretty much everybody. So very good team win here for the Texans. I'm pretty impressed. And I they got a tough matchup here against Denver next week, but I think the outlook for the Texans is kind of back to pointing up potentially. All right, Cleveland Browns. We have an AC joint sprain for running back Quinshon Judkins. They're on bye week 9, which is great. He's got a chance to come back week 10, but we'll watch his practice participation for next week. I think if you're on waiver wire duties this week, you can maybe pick up Dylan Sampson, who did, run 18 routes. He ran the ball 3 times, caught 5 passes. He would probably be the guy that I want to play if Judkins misses, so we'll monitor that. Otherwise, just a pretty ugly game. I mean, the receivers are garbage. Jerry Jeudy, no catches. Isaiah Bond, no catches. Gage Larvading, never heard of you. Jamar Thrash, caught 2 passes. Malachi Corley doing nothing. So the receiver room is pretty bleak. This is all tight ends. Harold Fannin continues his impressive rookie season, 20 fantasy points. David Njoku, good to see him back. He catches 4 passes for about 14 fantasy points. So, in a perfect world, you get Quinshon Judkins back week 10. You can play him, and you're playing Fannin and Njoku, and that's pretty much it from this offense. Gabriel may be in a super flex league, but Browns, we need some receivers, man. We need to find ways for Dylan Gabriel to hit some wide receivers besides the tight ends. All right, what do we learn from New England? Drake May, man. Drake May is really good. So I love Drake May. I think I had him as a top 10 fantasy quarterback in my projections this year. If not, he was really close. So I wish I had more Drake May shares everywhere, but he is absolutely balling right now. 7 rushing attempts, 26 fantasy points. The run game was non-existent. Even though we got to 26 carries between the 3 backs, they just held them in check. It's the Cleveland Browns. We know they're going to be a tough run defense, but Ramondre got the volume, still 6 fantasy points. That's just kind of is what it is. Travion Henderson finally gets up to 10 carries. I think he had a fumble in this one, but they're just not using him, man. They didn't put him in until the game was out of hand. So Henderson is a backup, unfortunately. Kayshon Boutte, again, he's going to lead the team in snaps and routes. He's going to be very inconsistent with his targets and receptions, but this time he hit the big touchdown. Mac Hollins as well had a huge game, 7 receptions, 16 fantasy points. Quiet day for Stephon Diggs, still decent 10 fantasy points. And then the tight ends here, Hunter Henry caught his 1 target for a touchdown. Austin Hooper had some nice plays as well. So Drake May kind of just distributing it everywhere. I don't have a lot of faith in who to start this week every week besides Drake May and maybe Stephon Diggs. You can try Hunter Henry, Ramondre Stevenson in a better matchup against Atlanta. I think I want him in my lineup. But Boutte and Mac Hollins, man, they remind me a lot of Nick Westbrook-Akine last year, where it's either 0 points or you get the touchdown. We'll see how it goes. We're going to pour one out for Cam Skattebo. Man, he was going to be a really fine fantasy season for him in his rookie year, and it's unfortunately here not going to happen for him. He did get 10 fantasy points, if I recall. He caught a touchdown, so you at least got something before his season ended. It's going to be all Tyrone Tracy going forward, so he's going to be the waiver wire guy that we're going to talk about tomorrow. Devin Singletary will get some mop-up duty work, but it's going to be pretty much Tyrone Tracy. And, I don't hate adding Devin Singletary. Tyrone Tracy does have some injury histories and some fumbling issues. Maybe we see this offense get to Devin Singletary at some point. So both guys worth picking up. Wan'Dale Robinson, quiet day. He finally caught a big pass at the end of the day, but only 3 catches for 8 fantasy points. Darius Slayton had a touchdown called back in this one, so bigger day for him. I think he's worth a pickup as the number 2 target in this offense. Theo Johnson, a quiet day. I like the usage, 30 routes out of 31, but only three receptions on 4 targets. I guess that's a floor game for him. So what do we do going forward? You're going to continue to start Jackson Dart, who put up 20 fantasy points, but the offense does take a hit losing Skattebo. Anytime you lose a good player, it's going to take a hit. But I still like Tyrone Tracy in this offensive role. I still like Wan'Dale. I like Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson. So there's still enough here for this to be a fun fantasy offense. But consider adding the running backs there, Tracy and Singletary. Don't really need to say much about the Eagles. No A.J. Brown in this one. It was all Devonta Smith making big plays. Dallas Goedert caught the touchdown. It was heavy Saquon Barkley early, and Jalen Hurts just tossing touchdowns. It was nice to see. Barkley did get hurt in this one. I think it was his groin, which allowed Tank Bigsby to get 9 carries for 103 yards. Like he was literally a tank in the second half of this game. So we'll watch for Saquon Barkley's injury. They're on bye this week, so that's a good news for them. They're going to get Green Bay on Monday Night Football Week 10, so they'll get healthy for that big NFC clash here. So didn't really learn much from Philly. They just got to get healthy. A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley tuned up. I don't really want to talk about Tampa Bay. This was an ugly game. They found a way to win. Got a defensive score. Sean Tucker got a score. Emeka Egbuka was pretty quiet. Tez Johnson made a couple plays. Tate Otten caught a few passes. Not Baker Mayfield's best work. Rachaad White gets 13 carries. Sean Tucker got 12 carries and the touchdown. So those guys were both fine in full PPR leagues. But I don't know, man. We need to see a healthy offense here. We're not going to get Mike Evans back until December. I don't know if Chris Godwin's coming back anytime soon. We're getting Bucky Irving back, though. They're on bye week 9. Bucky Irving back week 10. I think better days are ahead for Tampa Bay. So I'm just kind of willing to just forget about this one. They still won the game, but it was not the best offensive output. New Orleans Saints, we saw Tyler Shuck get some plays here. He ran the ball a little bit, made some throws, whatever. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed were fine. They both got 14 fantasy points in this one. Both had 12 targets. Continue starting both of those guys. Juwan Johnson is fine as a tight end one option if you need it. Another day, 8 targets, 5 catches. Alvin Kamara, man, he kind of is just not happening. 6 carries, 2 receptions. It's just not there. Devin Neal gets 0 carries in this one, catches 3 passes. I'm curious to see if his workload balloons at all at any point this season, or if Kamara gets traded, whatever. But the same type of quarterback question. We're going to see Shuck maybe get some starts here pretty soon. But keep firing up Olave and Shaheed. That's the life of this offense right now. All right, we're into the afternoon windows now. Dallas did not have a good game. Dak Prescott struggled. Javonte Williams did not. He ended up with 2 touchdowns. He didn't have a huge yardage day, but he got the touchdowns. That's all that mattered. Jaden Blue got some work here, 8 carries, but only 2.9 fantasy points here, so not super productive day, but it's nice to see them trusting him a little bit more. This was all George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb in this one, 9 and 10 targets, both 7 catches. They kind of get their above average floors here. Jalen Tolbert caught the garbage touchdown. How about the goose egg from Jake Ferguson, though? 0 catches on 30 routes. Pretty frustrating. I'm not going to read too much into this. I think Dallas gets Monday Night Football. They're going to get Arizona. So better days are ahead for Dallas. Everybody did fine, but Dak and Ferguson. So we'll see those guys bounce back. Didn't really learn too much from the Cowboys. What did we learn from the Broncos? I believe Marvin Mims left with a concussion, which allowed Pat Bryant to get his first career touchdown as he was on the field a little bit more. It's RJ Harvey. Is it time that this offense transitioned to RB Harvey? Like, Dobbins still looked really good. 15 carries, 2 catches, had a ton of yards. In this one, Dobbins is still playing good, but the offense is a little bit more unpredictable when RJ Harvey's on the field because he's a more dynamic, pass catching, shiftier back. They struggled with him when he was in the red zone. So he gets 1, 2, 3 touchdowns, 24 fantasy points, and RJ Harvey momentum game here. We'll talk about him, I think, throughout the week and see if we're going to get him in our fantasy lineups. I believe Denver, who does Denver get this week? I can't remember who Denver gets this week. They have a tough matchup if I remember, but either way, Bo Nix just continues to put up fantasy points. Cortland Sutton, it was looking ugly, but he gets 10 fantasy points for a floor. This was the Troy Franklin game, who was pretty clutch in the red zone, 27 fantasy points for him. Again, Pat Bryant catches 1. Evan Ingram's just a low-end tight end option for you guys. I'm excited about Denver, man. I mean, this was what it's supposed to look like against Dallas, but they have a lot of good things going right now, and I want to see more of RJ Harvey for sure. Tennessee Titans, okay. So there's positivity here. Despite getting blown out, the fantasy box scores don't look terrible. Cam Ward, 12.76 fantasy points. Stabilizing his floor a little bit. Tajay Spears gets the touchdown in this one, also catches 3 passes, 9 rushing attempts. He's a low-end RB2 flex. I think Tony Pollard's now below him in my rest of season rankings. Julius Chestnut, whatever. But Ayo Maynor, Chimere DK, these are the 2 guys. I guess Van Jefferson had 8 targets, only caught 1. But I think Ayo Maynor and Chimere DK are both guys that could be startable wide receiver 3 flexes for us. DK is the one that has the most momentum right now, and he's the most challenging, I think, for defenses with his speed. But 7 catches on 8 targets, 16.4 fantasy points. He's running all the snaps and the routes that you want to see. He looks like kind of fun. So he's a waiver wire guy for me. Alec Ayo Maynor, again, inconsistent. He kind of reminds me of a Michael Wilson. I prefer DK if I'm starting one of these Titans guys. And then the tight ends were involved. Okonkwo gets 4 catches. Gunnar Helm gets 2 and a touchdown. So we're seeing a better fantasy box score here. It's still not translating. It took him forever to get that touchdown at the end with Tajay Spears. Otherwise, maybe this doesn't look as good. But they're seeing what they got with these young players. I don't know if we're going to see Calvin Ridley play with this team the rest of the way. Maybe he gets traded, but we're still learning about the Titans. Didn't really learn anything about the Colts, man. They just keep confirming how good they are. Jonathan Taylor is a boss. Daniel Jones playing lights out. And Michael Pittman Jr., man, looking really good. I think Alec Pierce is kind of in that Darius Slayton mold for me, where if you need someone that can blow up for a big play or 2, he's worth a look. And then Josh Downs caught a touchdown, only 3 targets, but good to see him back from his concussion. Quiet day from Tyler Warren. Keep taking those 9-point floor games and just keep enjoying the Colts, man. They're looking really fun. The Colts play, I think they play Denver. That could be right. No, Houston plays Denver, I believe. All right, and then last but not least, Sunday Night Football. The Packers take down Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Jordan Love, man, very impressive night from Jordan Love. He completed 20 straight completions at one point, tying a Brett Favre record. That's pretty cool to do that in the game you're playing Aaron Rodgers for the first time. So outstanding game from Jordan Love, and the Packers got weapons, man. Christian Watson was back. Tucker Kraft was just unleashed. Emmanuel Wilson looked good as the RB2 behind Josh Jacobs. Didn't really need much from Dobbs and Golden in this one. Malik Heath was the number 4. He caught some passes. So everyone just kind of chipped in, and it was the Tucker Kraft, another breakout game from Tucker Kraft. It was just pretty cool to see every target he was doing something pretty crazy with it. And then Josh Jacobs, man, he's getting the touchdowns and the volume. The efficiency is pretty rough, though, right now. Green Bay's not a great pass blocking team. They looked or a run blocking team. They looked a lot better when Emmanuel Wilson was running the ball in the second half and he was making some plays. He might just have more juice right now. I'm not saying he's going to take any opportunity from Josh Jacobs, but I mean, this was a big win for the Packers, and Emmanuel Wilson was out there in the fourth quarter. So someone to file away for future. Matthew Golden, man, only 3 targets, 3 catches. This is not what we want from Matthew Golden. Now we got Christian Watson back, who's going to continue to earn big targets. We got Jaden Reed coming back at some point here too. I think you continue to start your Love, Jacobs, and Kraft. The receivers are all going to be wide receiver 3 flexes for me. I would rank them as Dobbs, Watson, Golden for now. And then when Jaden Reed comes back, it's going to really muddy the waters. What do we learn from the Steelers? Jaylen Warren still RB1, getting the volume. I like that. DK Metcalf could have had a bigger game. Luckily, he got you a touchdown. Calvin Austin looked good as the number 2 receiver, 6.8 fantasy points, though, just kind of short area targets. It was the Roman Wilson. He had a couple big plays. He made the touchdown catch at the end of the game. He also had, I think, like a longer play. So airing it out to Roman Wilson, who might be sticking around as the wide receiver 3, you can, add him on the end of your bench and see where that goes. The tight ends didn't really do much. 4 targets for Jonnu and Pat, but not a lot of production there. Rodgers dinked and dunked a lot in this game against the Packers zone, and it was very successful. They were getting a lot of field goal drives, but they just could not sustain it once they got inside the 30 or 40-yard line, so they had to settle for a lot of field goals. So it could have been a bigger day. Pretty good floor day, though, for Rodgers and Warren. Metcalf hit his averages, and we'll continue to watch Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson here. We need to see a consistent number 2, number 3 target. The tight ends aren't really quite stepping up, but I think maybe one of these young receivers could be the one that we're looking for. So there you have it, the Week 8 post-game notes. I will be going live tomorrow night for the Waiver Wire show at 7 o'clock Central Time tomorrow evening, so join me for that. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. Enjoy the Chiefs-Commanders game. And again, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you guys are new. And check out thefantasyfellowship.com. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace.